So now what do I want to do is calculate the average count and then plot it in the same graph. So how does that work? Now you apply event stats, average of count. So now I want you to pay attention. There's a new column that got added. Okay, and guess what? It is added to every event of the output before the pipe. Okay, so I have a count here, and I also have the average count here. So now this average is basically an average of all this number. So why is this useful? If you go to visualization, now you see a line here, a straight line, because it's the same value that got added in each event, right? So for someone looking at this, you can readily say at what time we were above average and what time we were below average, isn't it? So event stats, again, is very powerful when you want to compute something and add it to each event. To be honest, I don't see a lot of use. It really depends on your use case. In my mind, it uses to enhance what you already have, but basic stats will do the job for you in most cases. Now, stream stats is yet another command, right? What does stream stats do? It computes statistics as the event is seen. So this, for instance, this stats command here, it is one output based on all the data that came in, okay? Now, at times, you may want to compute data, compute statistics as the event is seen, a running count, if you will. And Splunk provides a way to do that. That's called a stream stats. Again, yeah, running count is probably the keyword there. So you can compute statistics as the data shows up in search time, right? So the way, let's look at an example of that. So let's say you want to calculate the total size. We saw the size, right, of the bytes. Let's say you want to have a running count of how much is it increasing over time. So in other words, I want to know how much data is being sent back to the clients from my web server, okay, in a graph. So what you can do here, stream stats, okay, stream stats is a command, and then you can have sum of bytes, okay? So again, when Splunk sees this, it will sum the bytes, and then for the next event, it will sum the bytes of that event with the previous event. And for the next event, it will sum the bytes of that event from the previous two events. So it is streaming. So streaming is the keyword. So you are calculating statistics in a streaming manner, right? So if I just do this as it is, let's see what happens. Well, I'm not, let's do this as total bytes. Okay, so here I see total bytes as 1665 because 1665 is the only one that showed up. This is the first event, right? If I scroll down, for the second event, total bytes increased. Now, maybe I can show this in a tables and you will see how this looks. And another thing, in this particular example, what I want to do, here's one of the things you may have noticed. Splunk shows the latest event as first, right? That makes sense. You want to look at the latest event first. If I want to plot from starting time to ending time how the data really progressed, the amount of data they send back, I really need to go the backwards, meaning I want to show the earliest event first and then compute it going forward, right? So for this use case, I need to use the command called reverse. Okay, maybe I can show you the output of this first. When you do reverse, what it means is the earliest event shows up first, and this takes some time. So use this with caution. In some use cases, you want to reverse the data. Splunk always shows the latest data first, right? This use case is one of them where I want to show the oldest event first, and you can see how this is actually increasing. This is 16. This is 17. Now I apply the stream stats command. I want to sum. Now I want to use a table command here, yet another command I'm introducing. So I'll just do time, comma, just do total bytes. What else I want to include? That's fine, I think. I'll also do, actually, I'll include the bytes and total bytes. How about that? Okay. All right. So now you can start to see how the total bytes is increasing based on what we see here, right? 3878 plus 1748 will be this. You can do the math if you want, but I trust Splunk. So it basically adds what's before it. So this is how stream stats is used. Once again, advanced use case. If you really want to use it, go ahead and use it. Okay. Okay, so we want to jump to reports, but I do want to cover some of the commands that GK asked. So there is transaction command. So let's look at transaction command. So this is not part of the curriculum, but I'll just quickly run through this. Okay, what does the command transaction do? Right? So you can see the data here in this. It is not grouped, isn't it? There's one event, basically per line. Again, event being one piece of data based on the time record, right? Now you can use the transaction command to group these events into some sort of association that you provide. Okay, it could be just the field values, or it could be a string that marks the start of the transaction and a string that marks the end of the transaction. And then those events all will be combined and show as one event. Now, what is the advantage of this? Number one, you get to see, all the events associated with the grouping in one event. Just visually, it is useful. Number two, Splunk automatically computes the duration of the transaction and also certain other fields, such as the event count. I think the duration is probably the most important. Now, let's take an example of JSession ID. Now, JSession ID, if you come from the Java development world, it's a unique session ID provided via cookie to identify a user, connecting to the web server or the application server rather. Now, what if I want to capture all the events associated with the JSession ID in one transaction? So a simplest way of doing transaction is just simply typing the command transaction JSession ID. Okay, let's see what happens. As you can see, this is an expensive command because Splunk needs to do a lot of processing. Now something interesting is happening. There are many events grouped in one event, isn't it? See, this is an event, this is an event, this is an event if you pay close attention. And the timestamp here is the first timestamp. Okay, this is the start of the transaction. Okay, now the JSession ID is the same across all these. Now you may be wondering, why can't you just search for the JSession ID, right? There are two problems with that. Number one, you don't know what the JSession ID you're looking for. Well, even if you're looking for, even if you know it, when you put in the search, the events are still going to be separate. It won't be grouped. Grouping is the keyword here. Okay. Now, interestingly, if you expand this, and Splunk calculates a duration for you. So the duration is 3 seconds, right? And then the total number of event count is 3. And this will be very useful to you because you can now find out how many users are just coming in and going out right away, or how many are staying there for a long time. But the thing I want you to take away is how Splunk is grouping those events using transaction command. The transaction command has many options. Like I said, you can use the start of the string and end of the string as a transaction. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Again, in the Splunk quick reference guide, I think transaction should be there. Yeah, it may not be the whole syntax, but you will have to look up Splunk documentation. Or in my book, I go through several examples of transaction command. Okay. And then you also, there is also the join command. So join again, is one of the advanced command. With join, what we do is we run a sub search and then join the results of the sub search into the main search. Okay, so the command goes something like this: join, and then you open with the open square bracket, and then you type the command as it is. You need to have the search keyword here. You can have another search, for instance. So this is useful. And then with join, you want to provide a join field as well. Now, unfortunately, in our test data, there is not one single identifier, or is there one, that appears in two different data sets to join. But let's take a hypothetical example. Say vendor ID, okay? And then here I would do something like index equal to main, source type equal to vendor sales. Okay. So now what you have just done is you have joined this result with this result based on vendor ID. Okay. Now you can actually do stats and all the goodies now because both the data are actually joined. I don't think we have a common field to join, so unfortunately this won't work. Yeah, I just came up with this. So it's just going to basically show all the data. It's probably not a good example, but you get the idea. So join is used to join two sets of data based on a field. Now append, on the other hand, is similar. It does use a sub-search concept. Again, you have to use a search, and then you do this in whatever search you want to search. As you can see, both join and append has this notion called a sub-search, right? You want to be careful when you use sub-search because there are some limitations on how much you can search in a sub-search. There's a limit of 50,000 events that you can bring. There is also a timeout of 60 seconds. So sometimes when I see people using sub-searches with join or append, you want to be careful to make sure that you are really processing all the data that you want, because you could be processing only a subset of the data that you want. One of the classic use case of append is to combine data from two different time frames. Remember I mentioned you can use the earliest here. Here probably you can do yesterday's data. Okay, and now I can use an append, and then you have the same command. Okay, I'll maybe provide 2 days worth of data. Okay, so the only thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to add a good old eval. I'll say something like time frame. I'll just say time frame equal to maybe last week or something. And here I'll add eval time frame equal to yesterday. Okay, now after this, I can absolutely, okay, I can do a stats if I want after that. Then maybe, oh, that's it. Close parentheses. Okay. I can do something like stats, count, maybe by time frame or something. So I am identifying all this data, adding, using a time frame field, and then I'm appending another search, same search, but different time frame. Okay. Again, I don't think I was prepared for this because all the total data is like 1 week in 2019. But this is how you would do it. Okay. So the append's classical use is to run the search with the different time frames and join and run statistic off of that using the combined data. So in that way, you can see side by side what's going on. Okay. All right. Whoa, we only have 30 minutes? Okay, so we won't take a break. We want to keep moving. I'll show you how to create reports and dashboards and then send it. I'll also show you how to do drop downs, right? So from now on, what I'll do is I'll just combine the remaining segments and we'll do together. Okay. So let's actually jump right into creating reports. Okay. So reports, right? What do you use a report? The short answer is to save typing, to save you from coming back and typing the same thing over and over again. So what do I mean by that? So this is a basic command, right? Int is equal to main, source type, access command, W cookie, stats, count by status. You can save this as a report so that you don't have to retype this. You don't even have to know what the SPL underlying is. You just come and run the report. How do I do that? Save as report. Okay, that's it. Provide a name. I'll give a name, maybe web server. I'll use the Acme name. Acme web server stats. Statistics table, yes. Do you want a time range picker? I'll leave it as yes. When you need to schedule a report, though, you cannot have the time range picker. We'll see an example of that. So, but for now, I'll leave it there. Click save. I'm going to click view. That's it. Your report is created. From now onwards, you can simply go to reports menu and then just simply pick the main report that you just created. That's it. As you can see, the SPL is nowhere to be found here. You don't need to know it. You don't need to remember it. The report does it for you. If you want to see the SPL underneath, you can click on edit and then open in search. Right? So then it opens the actual search. You can update the search here and then save. The report will be saved. Okay? So this is how you create a basic report. Now, I want to quickly show how you can schedule the report as well. So here's what I want to do. Let's go back. Okay, let's go to visualization. Let's actually pick a pie chart. Okay, so I have the pie chart and then I also have the table underneath. The scheduling things is very, very important in Splunk because you will use this when you schedule your alerts, because alerts are nothing but scheduled reports, but they have a threshold component to it, isn't it? So you will run the same search over and over. For example, the number of errors. Okay, let's say you want to run the number of errors every hour, and then if the number of errors is more than, let's say, 500, you send an email or page someone. So but that every hour, so the setting that alert to run every hour to check is a scheduling component. So you need to know how to schedule things. And the scheduling is same between scheduling a report, scheduling a dashboard, and scheduling an alert. So it's very useful, easy that way. So first I'm going to save this as a new report. I'll just do Acme web server report with pie chart, just, for me to remember. And then the content, I'm going to choose both pie chart and statistical table. And I'm not going to include time range picker. Even if I leave it here, when I try to schedule it, it will remove it. Okay. So I'm going to click on no. Click save. Now I'm going to schedule it. Click on schedule. Okay. I'm going to click on schedule the report. Now this screen is important. Like I said, this scheduling is the same between report, dashboard, and alert. Usually you can pick something from here every hour, every day, or, I don't recommend it. I recommend using a cron schedule because when you do every day, for instance, it will only give you like on the top of the hour option. And when you do every hour, for example, it will give you only, 0, 15, 30, and 45, only 4 options. And if you work in a bigger environment, most of the times this is when a lot of things will be running. So that will add some stress to the system. So what I recommend is click on cron schedule and then choose some odd, a number like at 2 minutes after the top of the hour, every hour, right? If you have to go every hour. So in that way, you still be doing every hour, but instead of starting at the top of the hour, you will do 2 minutes after. Now for this example, I'm just going to pick something that, that should be run right away. So I'm going to choose like a 33. Wow. The first is minutes, second is hour, third is day, fourth is month, and then the fifth is the day of the week. You can just put star there. Again, there are examples in the web on how cron expressions work. If you don't know cron, there may be a little bit of learning curve there. Now, time range, I will leave it as it is. Schedule priority and window, you can leave it as it is. Trigger actions. Now, Splunk can take many actions when the scheduler kicks in. The most common is sending an email, but there are many other things it can do as well. For example, webhook, it can send the data, the result, to an external endpoint. So this could be a chat room, or maybe your ServiceNow incident ticket response, incident ticket system and whatnot, right? You can even simply log the data to another Splunk instance, or you can keep adding actually custom actions here, but you need to develop it. So for now, I'm just gonna click on send email. I'm gonna provide my email. Now, in your lab environment, if you do this, the email may not go out to internet. You need to have an SMTP server configured. In production, probably your administrators have already done that, so it will work. In lab environment, if you do, you need to have access to an SMTP relay that can send email for you. So I happen to have one, so I already configured it. The settings for the SMTP server are under settings, server settings. I can show you that real quick because that question had popped up a few times whenever I show this. How do I configure SMTP? Okay, so now here there are many options for you to customize. Whenever you see $something, these are what we call global tokens. And Splunk makes a lot of global tokens available to you. For example, the name of the report can be added in the subject line. And then you can add any information here. For example, please contact support at 888, whatever, right? Something like that. Now I'm going to add the table. I'm going to attach a PDF. Now in this case, I'm going to attach the search string as well. And the search string may not be useful if you're sending to business folks, but it will be useful if you're sending to a support team. Okay, I'm going to come here and then change that cron here because the time has already passed. Okay, that's all you need to do. I'll click save. All right, let me open up my email here. Okay, so no emails yet. Let's take a look at this.